Welcome back to another episode of the Pax What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein, and it is a Victory Sunday. If you're listening to this on Monday, enjoy it. It's Victory Monday then too, but Packers are 4-2 now after defeating the Cardinals at home. Two NFC contests in a row now, 2 wins in a row, and the Packers are right in the thick of things. We were just talking pre-show about how if the playoffs started today, barring how things I think shake out with the Falcons game, since that's still in play, the entire NFC North would be in the playoffs, which is just wild at this point, but a really, really tough division. Vikings on their bye, Lions currently beating the Cowboys, Bears beat the Jaguars in London, and the Packers took care of business at home against the Colts. So Perry, this is going to come down to the wire, I think. Every win is going to matter this season.
Every win is going to matter, but I think the Packers just have to stay focused on themselves, stay focused on playing the brand of football that they know they can play. And I think this game was the perfect place to start. It was easily their most complete game of the season in all 3 phases. I thought we'll get to the good and the bad, but like the bad column is very, very, very small from this game. It's really hard to take a look at this game and think anything other than main takeaway, good win. Good, solid win at home. Offense looked like it was clicking together. Defense, I feel like did everything it needed to do. I mean, it held the Cardinals to 13 points, had 3 takeaways. So we can touch on maybe some, like, at this point, I think nitpicky things, but I left this game feeling like this is the Green Bay Packers that we expected to see this season. And I hope that this is the Green Bay Packers that we see for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there were different perspectives going into this one, right? We knew Kyler Murray would be a problem with his legs. We thought maybe if it was raining, which it did rain for most of the first half, that could be an issue, with tackle ability and scramble ability and ball security. And it ended up really only mattering for the Cardinals, 3 turnovers, 3 fumbles that the Packers were able to capitalize on. Of course, the interception streak comes to an end, but that's okay. 3 takeaways, we keep saying every show, it sounds like a broken record, that turnovers are volatile, and then they get how many of them in a game. So really impressive from them to have, I think, 17 through the first 6 games of the season, which is, I think, what they had all of 2023. So really impressive. Like you said, 13 points only from that defense. And you expect to win football games at that point, especially when your offense is able to put up 34 points on the other side of that. So really, really good home atmosphere. Kudos to the fans. They've got a red hot Texans team coming in next week to Lambeau. So yeah, good to stack wins and kind of keep pace in the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know let's stick with the defense end, because we've already mentioned the takeaway is I feel like this Cardinals team was coming into Lambeau Field off of a very huge divisional win against a very good 49ers team, right? And you didn't know how exactly they were going to look coming into this game. You mentioned the weather. James Conner has been able to run the ball very well. I thought the Packers did an exceptional job stopping the run. They contained Kyler Murray really well in this game too. If you wanted to, like I said, get into the nitpick of it all, they didn't sack him, but I thought the pressure looked a lot better. You can certainly see them kind of like getting through that offensive line, especially Kenny Clark starting to like make headway in the season a little earlier than his normal December, but they really just stifled this offense. Trey McBride was able to have a few explosive plays. It obviously helps that unfortunately Marvin Harrison Jr. left early in the game with the concussion. So I don't know like what would have happened if he had been able to play the full game, but it doesn't really matter. The Packers were kind of able to do whatever they wanted. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more from this like Jeff Hafley defense in terms of his aggressiveness and his fun pressure and blitz packages, like finally getting home.
Yeah, and another takeaway that I had, I think, just holistically speaking of that Jeff Hafley defense, Evan Williams and Javon Bullard can just stay on the field at all times. I thought they got really creative. Keyshawn Nixon was still out there a ton, and I thought he played, relatively well, had a couple PBUs. But Evan Williams is just incredible. And Javon Bullard, by all accounts, is also having a very good rookie season. But Evan Williams is kind of slowly getting some of that attention that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a day 3 pick. Edge Cooper continues to just stack really, really nice performances. So you really couldn't ask for more out of this rookie class. And shout out to Jordan Morgan as well. Obviously, came in. Sean Ryan got, I think, the first series, and then Jordan Morgan came in at right guard. Then Josh Myers got hurt, so Elton had to switch, and both of them were in there for a while. Thankfully, Josh Myers was able to come back so that line could stay consistent. But yeah, I mean, so far everybody really is making an impact. So it was nice to see all of those guys getting involved early in this one and often.
Yeah, I agree. I Yeah, I agree. It's fun to see the rookies getting involved. I mean, I think we felt confident about them heading into the season, but it wasn't like they were put necessarily in 100% of snaps or given like all of the opportunities. They've really had to work for it. And I think in their original like small percentage spot duty, they really showed why they deserve to be on the field. And now it's getting to the point where you're making the case, as you said, like for all of them to be on the field at all times. I want more Edge Cooper always, in everything, and same with Evan Williams. I mean, he's been in there for not just big plays in this game, but big plays in all the past, like I want to say 2 or 3 games so far, whether it's game ending or dagger, to seal the game. You know, he 33 has been right there. So kudos to Brian Gutekunst for drafting well, and kudos to Matt LaFleur and the training staff for getting them ready for the season so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of stacking overall impressions from this one, the Packers were just able to clean up a lot of the things that we've been really concerned about the last couple weeks. Much less penalties. Obviously, they only had 5 for 40 yards. Flip side of that is the Cardinals
Mhm.
had 13 for 100
Yeah.
yards, which is, very unlike what we've seen out of this Cardinals team early this season. Third down efficiency for the Packers, they were 7 of 12, so 58%, which is much better than last week when they were 1 of 8. They were 2 of 4 in the red zone, 1 of 1 in goal to go situations, 36 minutes of time of possession. So a really lopsided, kind of time of possession there as well. And just capitalizing whenever they had the ball, weren't too many opportunities. I mean, I think Daniel Whelan punted once.
Mhm.
So, and a clean football game. Obviously, Jordan Love had the one interception that wasn't really his fault, wasn't really on him. Um, so that'll hurt the stat sheet a little bit, but nothing, to do with him. I thought he played a really, really nice game, and he's finally looking fully healthy and fully like the Jordan Love we expected him to look going into the season.
I completely agree. I mean, they dominated from start to finish in this game. There was never really a point where I was concerned that the Cardinals were going to come back. If and when the Cardinals made any major drive, it was either stifled and they had to kick a field goal, or the Packers returned fire and scored, whether that was a touchdown and or a field goal for themselves. So they got their early lead and they sustained their early lead, and they kept that 2-score, 3-score lead for the entirety of the game and never really gave back up.
Yeah, and then I mean, I think just finishing drives, everything that we talked about,
Mhm.
wanting to see from them. And I think something else, barring, the missed field goal, they didn't really leave points on the board. We've seen them do
Yeah,
that so much throughout, every point matters. And, against the Eagles, they had a missed kick that probably would have kept them in things. Vikings, they missed 2 kicks. Didn't matter, of course, like against the Rams game, but it didn't matter, thankfully, against the Cardinals. But yes, they left 3 on the board at this point, but I think that's also just an indication of how much they were moving the ball and how successful that they could have been to finish the game with 37 points instead of 34 if that kick goes through. So, just a
yeah.
really impressive day, I think, from all parties and all phases, except of course for the one missed field goal.
Yep. And to just tack on to that, I mean, one of the things that we came away from after, some of their losses is their third down efficiency, and that just looked so much better today. They were converting even a fourth down, even though it didn't end up mattering on the drive where they converted the 4th and 2. So just being able to like sustain drives, like you said, and handle time of possession, like you're going to continue to win football games when you do that. I do want to quickly, before we move on, shout out Keyshawn Nixon.
Mhm.
I think we are going to see a Keyshawn Nixon breakaway for a touchdown soon. I just feel it coming. He's starting to find his groove in this new kickoff format, and it's fun to see him like turn on the jets a little bit when he gets the ball in his hands and break tackles. And I'm just going to put it out there that I think we see a return for a touchdown sooner rather than later this season. I can see it in his eyes and in his stride. He wants it.
I also think it's really kind of important to just mention that, everything that we've talked about so far with the way that this team is performing, but getting their guys back, right? Like Jair was
Mm,
back. That was huge for the
yeah.
secondary. Having both Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs back on offense was huge. It was fun to see guys like Bo Melton get involved, especially with his brother on the opposite sideline. But yeah, just really big performances. Christian Watson, 1 touchdown, Romeo Dobbs, 2 touchdowns. Jair had some PBUs and a fumble recovery. So, like, just, the team looks different when they've got their best players out there. And yes, they've been winning without some of those guys, but when you see them like fully healthy, it's scary. Like it's an
Yeah.
indication, there's a reason that this was their most complete game of the season.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like we kind of always joke or say in jest, I guess I would say, like, oh, well, it's just a different offense when Christian Watson is on the field. Even if he's not, lighting up the stat sheet or getting 100 yards every game, but he really, when he's out, the offense looks just a little bit different. I mean, they have their weapons and Jaden Reed makes up for so much. But then when Christian Watson comes back and you really do see what he does to this offense and what he does to take away, defenses and what defenses are able to do against the Packers, you're like, oh, yeah, that's why we always kind of make this joke because it's real. I mean, he's such a deep threat every single time he steps onto the field, and they can hit it. And when they hit it, today was beautiful, but they can hit it really at any moment. And that's why, you need to respect him every time he's on there.
Yeah, and I think Jordan Love, it's been fun to see kind of the comparisons that he draws to other quarterbacks, like catching the defense with 12 men is such an Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
thing. Like, that he learned that from Rodgers. The YOLO balls, as we call them, just kind of up. He plays recklessly but controlled. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I think he's got
Yeah.
that Favre gunslinger in him to the extent that like he wants to make a play at all times, and maybe sometimes he wish he wouldn't throw a ball that he would throw. Like the second Romeo Dobbs touchdown very easily could have been a pick, the way that he just kind of lofted it up there. But it also is, I think, a lot more calculated than maybe what we saw from Favre. So it's just kind of cool to see like him be his own blend of quarterback because we knew he wasn't going to be Rodgers. We knew he wasn't going to be any other quarterback, that he was going to be Jordan Love. But it's fun to see him have such a comfort, in the game and feeling healthy. The balls weren't low anymore at this point. Like guys were,
Mhm.
he was putting it right where he wanted to. We saw him scramble a ton and slide a little bit more, and then get up talking his talk. So you can tell that he just feels a lot more confident and comfortable when he's out there, which is huge.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he has a controlled chaos is an interesting way to put it. I mean, not chaos in a bad way, but just
Mhm,
like this like explosiveness in his own right that can come out at any moment. And like unlike Favre, I think he can rein it in a
mhm.
little bit better, but he can also put the cape on, as they were saying on the broadcast, and kind of like be Superman if need be. But he also knows when to rein it in a little bit more. I loved seeing his accuracy at
Mhm.
its peak today. Like you mentioned, the interception was not his fault. I think Bo Melton catches that ball if he doesn't slip. Today was Jordan looking like the Jordan that everyone like wanted to and pay last season. I mean that ball to Christian Watson like threaded through 4 defenders was insane. I mean, just insane levels of accuracy. So getting back to his regular self, probably also being hampered by a knee injury doesn't help when you don't feel like you can step into your throws or be as mobile or comfortable on your knee. But he looks absolutely back to normal, and I thought his accuracy today was on point. He is, speaking of Brett Favre, 4 touchdowns in this game, 4 touchdowns in the last game, and the only quarterback that threw 4 touchdowns in consecutive games in the last almost 30 years was Brett Favre. So, we make all these comparisons, and not to like, you know, belittle Jordan Love for being anyone other than who he is, but just like to compare him to greats because he's playing at that level, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, really well said, and I think that that's what makes it so cool to see it. We joke about, like, the Packers can't do it again and go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, but they really are, and, you know, I don't wanna take that for granted as a Packer fan, you know, and we talk about, you know, some of the things that maybe he could clean up a little bit, but, like, he's a phenomenal quarterback, and being able to see him, like, fully comfortable at Lambeau, it's gonna be a ton of fun to see him next week against CJ Stroud. Like, some of the changing of the guard, I think, is always really fascinating, and I'm really excited for the first Packers-Bears games. Caleb Williams has looked really good as well, so, like, anytime you see young quarterbacks kinda get their opportunity in the league, Jordan had to wait a long time for his, you know, so it's really nice that he is finally kind of putting the league on notice even in these noon Lambeau contests and not, when he's in prime time.
Yeah, 100%. All right, what else do you wanna talk about on the offense?
I think the offensive line played really well. Worth noting, obviously, that Jordan Morgan is healthy and he's starting to rotate in a little bit, get some looks. I think Matt LaFleur just stays in his bag, has a ton of fun with creativity, a direct snap to Tucker Kraft. We'll see, you know, if he utilizes any other kind of packages out of that or other looks out of that because that's just kind of a fun wrinkle. But yeah, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway, I know Dontavian Wicks got hurt, so hopefully that is not anything that keeps him out too long. But when this offense is healthy and he's got his guys, you know, I know Luke
Mhm.
Musgrave is on IR, but when he's got Kraft and his wide receivers all available to him at his disposal, there's not much that can stop this offense when it's clicking. And, you know, between Matt LaFleur's creativity, between Josh Jacobs just being a downhill runner, um,
Yeah,
between Watson and Dobbs and Reed all having like different skill sets. And you can tell that Love has such a comfort with all three of those guys in different ways. It's just a really powerful offense, especially
it
still for being so young.
Matt LaFleur was in his bag today. Matt LaFleur was in his bag today. He was having fun calling some of those plays, and just, like, you could tell having everyone on the field was everything to him in terms of, like, what he was able to call. I mean, Jordan threw to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different receivers. So that's like, I mean, when you have that many weapons to throw to, that's just like 9 different receivers, 9 different pass catchers, I should say, receivers, tight ends, running backs. So, I mean, I don't know how you defend that. And like it again, it goes back to that conversation that we've all had many times over the course of the off seasons, like, oh, who's the one? This offense is like clearly designed to play and operate at its best when the quarterback is spreading the ball around to everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also worth noting if we're gonna keep talking about takeaways on the offensive side of the ball, 179 yards on the ground, and
Yeah.
everybody got a touch, right? Bo Melton got in there. Jaden Reed had 1 attempt, but Chris Brooks, their 3rd running back, who, like, you don't really expect much out of, had a really fun game, averaged over 5 yards a carry. Emmanuel Wilson got in there a ton, averaging over 7 yards a carry. Josh Jacobs had, you know, just, like, another, like, quietly good game for him. So yeah, just like a really nice performance from all of the role players, not just the guys that you would expect to have big games, but like the depth is so huge for this team as well.
100%. I wanna talk about Emmanuel Wilson really quick because
Mhm,
he, like, has come in as RB2 when that wasn't really supposed to be his role, and he's been excellent. I mean,
mhm.
7 yards a carry, excellent. That is excellent. Like, and, we thought that maybe Josh Jacobs was out, potentially with an injury in this game. He ended up coming back in, but you put Emmanuel Wilson in his spot, and it's like nothing changes. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, not just a weapon in the, you know, in the run game, but had 1 reception for 19 yards. Like he is versatile, he can do it all, and he looks like a different back last year. You know, we thought that there was something there, but certainly proving why he was worthy of running back 2. And, you know, he did it in the preseason as well. But when it's the preseason, you're a little more skeptical. And now seeing him do it against starting NFL defenses just kind of confirms why the
Yeah,
Packers were so high on him.
100%. All right, before we get out of here, any game balls you want to give anybody? I know we've touched on a few players already.
I think I'll give mine to Evan Williams just
Yeah.
because it's been so fun to see him still ascending in this defense, and he's all over. Like, he makes plays anytime he's on the field. Had a really nice day opposite Xavier McKinney. I like
Mhm.
Bullard being in the nickel some of the time. Um, if you look at, the top 4 tacklers, I guess 5 technically, on defense this week, it was Quay Walker, Javon Bullard, Edge Cooper, Evan Williams, and then Xavier McKinney, which is like, yeah, you would expect that. That's like a really solid 5 guys to be flying
Mhm.
around your defense. So I think that he would get my game ball just for continuing the performance that he had last week and making it so that it wasn't just a fluke in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think mine's going to Romeo Dobbs.
Good
He
one.
obviously did not have, the best week last week. He missed the game on suspension. He came back. I thought both him and the Packers, quite frankly, handled the situation incredibly. This could have turned really sour really quickly. It could have spiraled out of control, and it did the opposite. It was controlled and contained, and clearly there's a lot of mutual respect and love between both Romeo and the rest of the locker room and the coaches and the organization. And he was supported in the ways that he needed to be, and he came back and he had a 2-touchdown day, and you can just tell how much the guys wanted to rally around him and make sure that he felt like he was still a part of the team and supported. And he's a key piece of this offense, and
He
as
really
he
is.
should be, right? So to just see him come back and like not miss a beat and to be targeted as that key piece of the offense, and again, not be like penalized in any way. Not that I would expect the Packers to ever do anything like that, but just like to see it confirmed was really heartwarming, and I'm happy that he's back.
All right. I don't want to end this one on a sour note, but I do have one question.
Okay.
Do you think the Packers need to look at another kicker? Was it enough to miss a 44-yarder, then make a 41-yarder? Because, like, you can tell, I mean, I don't know what else the Packers were supposed to do at that point, but I was kind of glad he had the opportunity to try another one, and it didn't just end on the miss. So the fact that
Yeah.
he made one, it's really tough because he's missing kicks that he really needs to be making.
Yeah.
But then the ones that he makes are like dead center down the middle. So it's just really hard to kind of gauge what the problem might be. Because I know, there was a thought for a while it was the operation, it could have been the hold, but no, it's been clean. So this is just a Braden Arvison issue.
I don't know. I mean, like, is it worthwhile to bring in competition? Probably. What is that going to do for like a rookie's confidence? I don't know. But you can't be missing 44 yarders. Like, you just can't. That's considered automatic in the league, and he's doing it regularly. So in another game, a close game, like we've already seen this season, those could be the difference between winning and losing.
And they
So
have
I
been.
don't right,
Like,
exactly. So yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it hurts. I just don't know who, like, if there was
yeah.
another option, I think they would have done it. I don't know, but he needs to start making those.
Maybe the Packers will surprise us all and trade for a kicker by the trade deadline. We're
That
expecting
would be
them like to
ridiculous.
bring
That would be ridiculous. Oh my god.
but
We're like,
it
"An edge
happened.
rusher," and they're like, "No, kicker."
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, just a really good, clean, complete win, and it was really nice to see them beat a pretty formidable opponent, quite frankly. The Cardinals are not nobody's they're having a really great start to the season. So I'm looking forward to next week. Next week has been circled on the calendar for a very long time. So this is gonna be like, star of the show so far this season, but we will get there in our preview show, and just happy to soak in this win for a moment until this evening, Sunday evening, when I get to watch my Mets in the NLCS.
Yeah, enjoy this one, Packers fans. I think the last thing I'll say about it is that it's coming at the right time. Yes, it's only week 6, but
Mhm.
this being the most complete game of the season for the Packers, their arrow is pointing straight up. And in the rest of the NFC, like we talked about, the Lions are currently blowing the Cowboys out of the water at halftime. So they're going to have to keep the pace, but they're fully capable of doing that, especially when they win as solidly as they did today. So thank you, as always, for listening to the show. You can find us on YouTube at Pax What She Said. Like and subscribe to the show there, please, if you don't already. You can find us on Spotify or everywhere else you listen to the audio format of the podcast at PWSS Podcast on Twitter, Perry at Perry_Goldstein, me at Maggie J. Loney. We will be back, like Perry said, later this week to talk about week 7 already. Packers hosting the Texans, an AFC opponent, and wearing their winter whiteout uniforms this
Oh,
week, so
yes.
gonna look really cool at Lambeau, but we'll see you then. Enjoy Victory Sunday/Victory Monday, and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.